is this new devilry?
A Balrog, a demon of the ancient world. His foe is beyond any. Run!
Hello, Canada, and the realms of the Seventh Age at large. This is Lane from Canada. Some movies are so fantastic that a blue-collar grunt like me feels inadequate to even talk about them. And when three of those movies combine into the single greatest cinematic trilogy of all time, I feel downright ashamed to even give my thoughts. I will freely admit that I have both the humility and self-awareness to concede my own intellectual inadequacy, and the truth is, I am straight up unworthy to review Peter Jackson's reverent vision of the life's work of J.R.R. Tolkien. So I bid you farewell for now and leave the reviews for this one in the capable hands of the professional Hollywood film critics.
Hey, girls are funny, Wendy, okay? Get over it.
Yes.
Little change of plans. I am now here to eat lambus bread and tell you about the greatest film trilogy that anyone, past, present, or future, will ever behold. And I'm all out of lambus bread. Welcome to the 50th episode special of Before Movies Sucked, and this is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. In the waning days of the Third Age of Middle-earth and the peaceful hobbit realm of the Shire, the legendary adventurer hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, abruptly vanishes while giving a farewell address at his 11st birthday party. Back at Bilbo's home in Bag End, he and his close friend, the powerful wizard Gandalf the Grey, privately arrange for Bilbo to sneak away from Hobbiton to the distant elvish city of Rivendell. At Gandalf's urging, Bilbo reluctantly leaves behind a magic ring he found on his first adventure, entrusting it to the care of his young nephew and only trusted relative, Frodo Baggins. However, Gandalf is troubled by the hold the ring seems to have over Bilbo's mind, and refuses to touch it himself.
It's mine. My precious.
Precious?
Gandalf realizes that it was only through the sheer goodness and strength of Bilbo that he was finally able to let the ring go. Frodo arrives too late to say goodbye to his uncle, but Gandalf enigmatically gives him the ring, advising the young hobbit to
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Clearly fearful about something, Gandalf quickly departs for the city of Minas Tirith in the human realm of Gondor. In the city archives, he scours through the ancient Númenórean writings of Isildur, son of Elendil, who reigned over Gondor more than 3,000 years earlier. He finds a passage where Isildur, using the same words of Bilbo, describes coming into possession of the One Ring, which he cut from the hand of the Dark Lord Sauron in the Battle of the Last Alliance. All of Sauron's power had been tied to the ring, so the loss of it seemingly killed him, bringing peace to the kingdoms of Middle-earth in the Second Age. However, Gandalf suspects that Sauron's spirit remains and is regaining strength in his former fortress of Barad-dûr in the dark land of Mordor, an evil realm populated by armies of orcs and trolls. In Barad-dûr, a mysterious prisoner named Gollum, who had once possessed the One Ring before it was found by Bilbo, is tortured until he reveals two names to his captors, Shire and Baggins. Sauron unleashes 9 dark riders called the Nazgul to Hobbiton to retrieve the ring. Gandalf finds Frodo first, telling him he must flee with the ring to the village of Bree, while Gandalf consults with the leader of the Istar wizards, Saruman the White, in the fortress of Isengard. After realizing that Frodo's friend and servant Samwise Gamgee has overheard their conversation, Gandalf assigns him to accompany Frodo and keep him safe. Believing that Sauron's victory is inevitable, Saruman betrays and imprisons Gandalf, but he is eventually able to escape with help from the Eagles. Meanwhile, Frodo and Sam are joined by two mischievous hobbits, Merry Brandybuck and Pippin Took, and later meet a ranger named Aragorn, who is secretly the last heir of Isildur and the rightful king of Gondor. Knowing that they cannot wait for Gandalf, Aragorn leads the hobbits towards Rivendell, but they are ambushed by the Nazgul, who are drawn to the power of the ring, and gravely wound Frodo when he attempts to use its invisibility power to hide from them. An elvish lady, Arwen the daughter of Elrond, arrives and rescues the fading Frodo, fleeing with them from the Nazgul until they reach the safety of Rivendell. As Frodo is healed by Lord Elrond, the wise and ancient warrior who rules over Rivendell, delegations from the various kingdoms of men, elves, and dwarves arrive to discuss the rising threat of Sauron and the Ring. These include the woodland elf Legolas, the Erebor dwarf Gimli, and a champion of Gondor, the human warrior Boromir, and a pony named Bill who's important enough to the story to have a name.
Bye-bye, Bill.
Gandalf reveals that the ring can only be destroyed where it was first forged in the volcanic chasms of Mount Doom in the land of Mordor, but warns that Sauron's power will become unstoppable if he is ever reunited with his most precious creation. Seeing the division that the ring's influence is bringing even to the powerful council, Frodo bravely pledges to take the ring to Mordor to destroy it. Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Boromir, Sam, Merry, and Pippin all volunteer to join him as the Fellowship of the Ring, because quests of this magnitude should never include women. Before they set out to literally save the world, Bilbo gifts Frodo two treasures that he found in his earlier adventures: a nearly impenetrable shirt of mithril chainmail and an elvish dagger named Sting. In an effort to avoid the ever-present threat of Saruman's spies and magic, Frodo directs the Fellowship to evade their enemies by passing through the dwarvish mines of Moria deep under the mountains.
Moria, you fear to go into those mines. The dwarves delved too greedily and too deep. You know what they awoke in the darkness of Khazad-dûm. Shadow and flame.
I freaking love Christopher Lee. After being trapped inside the mines by a giant octopus thing, the Fellowship discovers that the Moria dwarves, including Gimli's cousin Balin, have long since been slaughtered by an invading force of goblins, and they are forced to proceed in secrecy to avoid detection. They also realize that they are being followed at a distance by Gollum, who Gandalf suspects was released from Barad-dûr. Sauron knows that the obsessed Gollum will never rest until he can reclaim the ring that corrupted his mind for more than 500 years, and his foolish use of it will allow the Nazgul to find him. After Pippin cacophonously gives away their location, the Fellowship is attacked by an overwhelming force of goblins, who are backed up by a cave troll with Down syndrome. The entire party must work together to defeat it. I have no idea why it is so important for me to emphatically reiterate that it takes the combined might of 2 Gondorian warriors, a vengeful dwarf, a sharpshooting elf, 4 uncommonly courageous hobbits, and a freaking Istar wizard to bring down a single troll in a cave, and several of them are almost killed in the process!
Conflicted.
Ugh! Oh yeah, and then this happens.
I am the servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Arnor. The dark fire will not avail you, flame of Udun! Go back to the shadow. You shall not pass!
Gandalf versus Durin's Bane is the single greatest moment in film history. Fight me. With no time to mourn for Gandalf, the Fellowship flees to the safety of the woods of Lothlorien. There they are welcomed and protected by one of the fairest and most powerful elves in Middle-earth, the Lady Galadriel, who isn't a lemon-puckered, emasculating, defeminized, condescending, and
conflicted
bitch who was bullied as a child by baby elves and then spent over 1,000 years hunting for Sauron without looking at a map.
Where there's a wit, there's a way. Where there's a wit, there's a way. We don't want to go to war today.
Frodo offers the ring to Galadriel, but she resists the temptation and instead bestows gifts on the Fellowship to aid them in their quest. However, Saruman unleashes his deadliest creation to pursue the Fellowship, a hybridized breed of orc known as the Uruk-hai, who do not have the subterranean orc's usual weakness for sunlight. As the Fellowship camps by the river, the influence of the ring overcomes Boromir, and he attempts to steal the ring from Frodo, believing that he can wield it as a weapon to save Gondor. Frodo uses the ring to escape, and Aragorn, realizing that the ring will attempt to corrupt them all, bids Frodo to flee alone while he holds off the incoming hordes of Uruk-hai.
I would have gone with you to the end. Into the very fires of Mordor.
As Frodo flees to the river, the Fellowship battles against the powerful new foes. Merry and Pippin are almost killed, but a repentant Boromir saves them, sacrificing his life in a heroic last stand against the Uruks. However, Merry and Pippin refuse to leave their fallen friend, and are captured as per Saruman's instructions. After a vicious duel against Lurtz, the captain of the Uruk-hai who felled their friend, Aragorn slays him and bids a tearful farewell to Boromir.
I would have followed you, my brother. My captain. My king.
Sam refuses to let Frodo go to Mordor alone, and shows his loyalty by almost drowning while pursuing his master across the river. Frodo saves him, and they venture towards Mordor together. After paying their final respects to Boromir, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli reluctantly agree that Frodo must be left alone to pursue his fate, but they can still save the Fellowship by tracking down the Uruks and saving Merry and Pippin.
We travel light. Let us hunt some orc.
With the Fellowship divided, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas begin a great chase after the Uruk-hai, who are racing back to deliver their prize to Saruman at Isengard. However, the Uruks are ambushed by the mighty Rohirrim from the Horsemaster Kingdom of Rohan, under the command of Lord Eomer, the banished nephew of King Theoden. In the chaos of the battle, Merry and Pippin manage to escape into Fangorn Forest, where they are apprehended by an Ent named Treebeard, one of the reclusive tree-like creatures who stand guard over the forest. He says he must take them to the White Wizard. Merry and Pippin are horrified, believing they're still being handed over to Saruman. Meanwhile, Frodo and Sam set a trap for Gollum, who is still relentlessly following them. After capturing him, they make him swear on the ring that he will not harm them, and enlist him as their guide to Mordor. Gollum is intensely conflicted between his lust for the ring and his feelings of affection for Frodo, the only person who has ever shown him mercy. He is further changed when Frodo refuses to call him Gollum, but addresses him as Smeagol, his original name from a nearly forgotten time centuries earlier, when he was a young creature very similar to a hobbit. After this, he willingly leads them to the Black Gates of Mordor, evading the Nazgul who patrol the skies on the dragon-like backs of Blackwings, although Sam still refuses to trust him, knowing how deceptive the power of the ring can be. With the Black Gates too heavily guarded to enter unseen, Smeagol leads them towards a distant hidden passage into Mordor at the orc fortress of Minas Morgul, the lair of the most powerful Nazgul, the Witch King of Angmar. The fortress is a defensive outpost near the border of Gondor, but before they can reach it, Frodo and Sam are captured by Gondorian soldiers, led by Boromir's brother, Captain Faramir. Smeagol manages to slip away, but Faramir threatens to kill the creature if Frodo does not bring him in peacefully. With his trust in Frodo shattered after the Gondor soldiers capture and abuse him, the childlike Smeagol reverts to the evil Gollum and reveals to Faramir that Frodo is carrying the One Ring. Like his brother, Faramir believes that the power of the ring can be wielded by men as a weapon against their enemies. He determines to bring the ring back to his father, Lord Denethor, steward of Gondor's abandoned throne, in the hopes of earning his respect. He begins the long trek back to Minas Tirith with Frodo, Sam, and Gollum as his captives. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli discover that the White Wizard in Fangorn Forest is Gandalf, who died from his injuries after finally slaying the Balrog, but was resurrected to replace the fallen Saruman as leader of the Istar. He tells them that Merry and Pippin are safe in the custody of Treebeard, but the kingdom of Rohan needs their help. The noble king Theoden's mind is under the control of Saruman, facilitated by a duplicitous advisor, the epically named Creemier Wormtongue, which has caused Theoden to abandon the defense of Rohan to ravaging bands of orcs and exiled criminals who have allied with Saruman. At Wormtongue's urging, the king has also unwittingly banished Eomer and his loyal Rohirrim. With help from the White Stallion Shadowfax, lord of all horses in Middle-earth, they journey to the king's fortress of Edoras, where Gandalf reveals his new powers by freeing Theoden from Saruman's possession. Theoden banishes Wormtongue to the custody of Saruman, and mourns for the death of his only son Theodred, who was killed in battle against the rampaging orcs while the king was possessed. To save the remnants of his people, Theoden orders them to flee to Rohan's greatest stronghold, Helm's Deep, while Gandalf rides off to find and retrieve the Rohirrim. Wormtongue counsels Saruman of Theoden's plan, and the corrupted wizard sends a pack of orcs mounted on wolf-like wargs to attack the refugees. Theoden orders his niece, Lady Eowyn, to lead the people to Helm's Deep while his guards and the Fellowship engage the marauders. After a ferocious battle, the orcs and wargs are defeated, but Aragorn is dragged over a cliff by a warg and presumed lost. Undeterred, Saruman unleashes the full strength of the armies of Isengard to assault Helm's Deep.
A new power is rising. Its victory is at hand. This night, the land will be stained with the blood of Rohan. March to Helm's Deep. Leave none alive. To war!
There will be no door for men.
Aragorn survives his fall and is found and rescued by a horse named Brigo, whom he had previously set free out of pity after it had been nearly driven mad in battle. He sees tens of thousands of Uruk-hai marching from Isengard and rushes to warn Theoden. Seeing the despair of the few remaining soldiers and conscripted civilians, and even his own friends, Aragorn rallies them to stand with Theoden till the end. Despite receiving elvish reinforcements from Lothlorien and Rivendell at the last minute, Helm's Deep is helplessly outnumbered. With the women and children sheltered in the caverns, the defenders fight valiantly against endless waves of attack but take heavy casualties, including the entire elvish force. The survivors are forced to fall back repeatedly as the Uruks continue to breach the fortress, eventually finding themselves trapped in the upper keep. Oh yeah, and then this happens.
So much death. What can men do against such reckless hate?
Ride out with me. Ride out and meet them.
For death and glory.
For Rohan. For your people.
The sun is rising.
The horn of Helm Hammerhand shall sound in the deep. One last time. Now for wrath, now for ruin, and the Red Dawn! For they are ended!
Just as the battle's outcome seems inevitable, Gandalf arrives with Eomer and the Rohirrim, finally turning the tide and wiping out the remaining Uruks. As Theoden and the Fellowship celebrate their victory, Gandalf warns that Sauron will be outraged by Saruman's failure and will swiftly retaliate with all the dark powers he can muster. Meanwhile, Merry and Pippin have convinced Treebeard not to take them back to the Shire, but instead to rally the Ents and avenge the fallen forests of Fangorn on Isengard. Saruman's fortress is overrun and flooded, killing all the orc sentries, and the fallen wizard is forced to barricade himself within his tower with Wormtongue, knowing that their alliance with Sauron has ended in defeat. Faramir arrives at Gondor's garrison city of Osgiliath, on the river bordering Mordor, finding it under attack by orcs and Nazgul, who are preparing to make their move against Minas Tirith, the pinnacle kingdom of men. More determined than ever to deliver the ring to his father, Faramir is finally stopped by Sam, who furiously reveals that Boromir was killed because he attempted to do the same thing, even betraying his friends. After witnessing Sam rescue Frodo from a Nazgul, Faramir repents and orders them to be released with Gollum, accepting that he's forfeiting his own life in doing so. Gollum leads Frodo and Sam back towards the secret stairs, but secretly plans to betray them and reclaim the ring, with help from a dark force of evil he reverently refers to only as her. Gollum privately recalls his first encounter with the ring when he was a young fisherman. It was found in the river by his cousin Deagle on Smeagol's birthday, but Smeagol was almost immediately overwhelmed by desire for it. He impulsively murders Deagle and claims the ring, leading to centuries of torment, disfigurement, and exile, with his love for the ring being the only thing he can remember clearly. However, he maintains a cheery facade as he leads the hobbits ever closer to Mordor. Finally reunited with Merry and Pippin at Isengard, the rest of the Fellowship discovers a Palantir, a mystical orb which Saruman had used to communicate with the spirit of Sauron. They regroup at Edoras to prepare for Sauron's next assault because, you're gonna hate me for this, I usually watch the theatrical versions where you don't get to see Wormtongue shank Saruman in the back like a jail yard snitch. In my defense, that is the one extended scene I always wish they had kept in the theatrical release, because what the world needs now is not Love Sweet Love, it's more Christopher Lee. Also, I haven't watched the full 738 hours of behind-the-scenes footage from the various DVD collector's editions. My sins are laid out before you. Apparently, Pippin isn't satisfied with taking the assist on getting Gandalf killed, so he decides to get everybody killed this time. Enraptured by the memory of the Palantir, he steals it from Gandalf in the night, but finds himself facing the hypnotic eye of Sauron. Pippin resists telling Sauron about Frodo and the ring, but Gandalf realizes that Sauron will believe that Pippin has the ring, as the Dark Lord only knows that it is in the possession of a halfling. To protect Pippin, Gandalf and Shadowfax take him to Minas Tirith, hoping to rally Lord Denethor and the armies of Gondor for the upcoming war. Distraught over the loss of his beloved son Boromir, Denethor refuses to heed Gandalf's counsel or better defend the city, and rails against relinquishing his stewardship of the throne to the rightful heir, Aragorn. Frustrated by the steward's complacency, Gandalf enlists Pippin to covertly light an emergency beacon, which triggers a call for aid to Rohan in the most cinematically beautiful and you thought your job sucked sequence in the history of film. Hey, wanna go live on a mud hut on top of a snow-capped mountain for a 6-month stint? You can't use any of the oil-sop firewood because we might need to go to war one day, but we pay per diem and dental. Seeing the beacons, Theoden rallies thousands of riders from across Rohan to march to Gondor's aid, not knowing that Lady Eowyn and Merry have disguised themselves and secretly plan to join the battle as well. Meanwhile, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum reach the secret stairs at Minas Morgul, barely escaping detection by the Witch King as he begins his final assault on Osgiliath and Minas Tirith. Elrond arrives to present Aragorn with King Elendil's famous sword, Narsil, which was broken by Sauron before Isildur used the broken hilt to cut the ring from his finger. Newly reforged from the shards of Narsil into Anduril, Flame of the West, King's sword gives Aragorn the authority to summon a weird green ghost army thing from the mountains, because I haven't read the books in a while. Basically, they annoyed Isildur 3,000 years ago, so he ghosted them. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli break off from Theoden's army to find the green ghosts, while Theoden continues to Minas Tirith for the most spine-shivering cavalry charge in film history, which I'm only going to briefly highlight here because I already did the full tangential in my The Ghost in the Darkness review. Denethor goes mad when Faramir is brought in from the battle critically wounded. Ignoring Pippin's insistence that Faramir is still alive, the steward prepares to immolate himself and his son, forcing Gandalf and Shadowfax to knock him onto the funeral pyre, while Pippin rescues Faramir. Denethor realizes the truth too late and is burned to death. After valiantly engaging an army of Oliphant-riding baddies who look way more Middle Eastern than modern filmmaking would allow, Theoden is mortally wounded by the Witch King. However, Lady Eowyn bravely stands in the Nazgul's path, suicidally battling him and the Blackwing to defend her uncle.
No man can kill me.
I am no man.
Aragorn arrives with his deferring army of green ghosts, slaughtering the remnants of the Witch King's army, and retaking Minas Tirith. but is too late to save King Theoden, who dies peacefully in Eowyn's arms. Meanwhile, Gollum pulls the oldest fat guy stole the elvish waybread trick in the book to turn the psychologically fragile Frodo against Sam. Frodo demands that Sam return to the Shire, while he and Gollum enter the tunnels at the top of the cliffs alone. Too late, Frodo realizes that Gollum has abandoned him to the mercy of the spider Shelob, one of the most ancient and evil beings in Middle-earth. If this was a Rapture movie, she'd be the anti-Galadriel. Also, I love that her name is one letter away from being Sheblob. Although he loses his sword in a spiderweb while fleeing from the beast, Frodo briefly manages to evade Sheblob and literally shakes off Gollum as well. However, as he continues towards the orc fortress leading into Mordor, he's impaled by Sheblob's venomous stinger and goes,
As limp as a boned fish.
"Oh yeah, and then this happens."
Let him go, you filth.
Let him go! He will not touch him again! Come on and finish it!
Why would anyone ever watch a 10,000 times the average person's carbon footprint Leonardo DiCaprio movie when a fat little hobbit can pull off one of the most heroic scenes ever committed to film after packing on more than 40 pounds of blubber for the role? We don't need your condescending, pretty, blonde, global elitist man-whores anymore, Hollywood. We have 2003 Sean Astin! After a furious battle, Sam and Sting remind Sheblob of what her own black blood looks like, and she limps off to sulk for a few thousand years. However, Frodo's body is taken by an orc patrol, so Sam has to— Oh yeah, and then this happens!
That's for Frodo! That's for the Shire! And that's for my own Gather!
You guys realize this is actually Sam's story, right?
I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you!
Knowing that Sam and Frodo will need safe passage across the plains of Mordor, Aragorn rallies the remaining armies of Rohan and Gondor, because he more nicely ghosted the Ghost guys, and they march on the Black Gates to draw out Sauron's remaining forces. The plan works as the exhausted Frodo and Sam finally begin ascending the slopes of Mount Doom, and the most stand-up and sheer moment in film history gets kicked off with two alliterative words.
For Frodo.
Gollum reappears and attacks Sam and Frodo before they can reach the summit. Sam battles and injures him while Frodo makes a final dash for the caverns. The power of the ring has too strong of a hold on him, and Sam can only watch helplessly as Frodo claims the ring for himself and puts it on, instantly alerting Sauron and the Nazgul to his presence. Gollum KOs Sam with a rock and attacks Frodo's gross, sweaty footprints before biting off the Hobbit's finger to finally reclaim the precious, while leaving us with one of the most annoying recurrent theme songs of 1980.
Frodo of the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom. It's time to stop, okay? Don't you let go!
As Sauron is destroyed and Mount Doom goes full Ralphie versus Scut Farkus on the Nazgul, Gandalf and the airborne staple of Tolkienian rescue squad save Frodo and Sam. The Fellowship is joyfully reunited, having finally ensured the safety of Middle-earth. In the aftermath, Aragorn is crowned King of Gondor and marries Arwen, who got more reference in this recap than she got in the actual books. Frodo, Bilbo, and Gandalf are taken to the heavenly Grey Havens with the last of the Elvish nobility, and Sam marries a busty, pointy-eared barmaid. Best outcome of the whole deal.
Hey, welcome, traveler. Come in. It must be cold outside. I can hear the wind noise from here.
Great, googly woogly!
It's all awesome. The end.
I'm back.
You all know that I'm not going to be able to add anything meaningful to the discussion of this trilogy that you haven't already heard for more than 20 years from people with much more analytical minds than my own. Believe me, there's a reason that I started off this channel reviewing movies like Congo.
Ugly gorillas, ugly, go away.
it's a lot simpler to revisit somewhat obscure, even bad movies used to be good, and dust off some forgotten fun in them than it is to find an original way to rephrase previous adulations and then heap them onto the already overburning praise pile of the greatest film trilogy of all time. These movies are fantastic, we all know that. All I can do is tell you what I love most about them. For me, the cast tops it all. They are better than the battle scenes, they are better than the score by Howard Shore, they are better than the Gollum CGI, they are better than the practical effects, they are better than the entirety of New Zealand's scenic splendor, and they are even better than the original concept artwork by Alan Lee and John Howe. Gandalf. Let's start with Gandalf. Ian McKellen's casting as Mithrandir the Grey Pilgrim is the genuine stuff of legend, but I actually felt a bit disappointed when I first heard about it. I knew that Patrick Stewart and Sean Connery had been considered for the role, and at the time I confess I was a 19-year-old kid leaning towards the better-known, dare I say, more commercially viable options. I only knew Ian McKellen as Magneto from 2000's X-Men the year before, and although I had loved his performance, I seriously wanted to see what 007 James Bond or Captain Jean-Luc Picard could bring to the world of Tolkien. Couldn't have been more wrong. As I mentioned earlier, Gandalf versus Durin's Bane on the Bridge of Khazad-dûm is what I consider to be the single greatest moment in film history, and that prestigious honor didn't have a whole lot to do with an awesome CGI Balrog. There's a power and gravitas behind Ian McKellen's performance that I don't think even Sean Connery could have come close to, and it should forever silence anyone who may at one time have said that flamboyantly gay British pensioners can't play action heroes. Ian McKellen was everything that a sage warrior hero could ever hope to be. The remainder of the Fellowship actors are all uniquely perfect in their roles, and I particularly love how they portray a full range of masculine heroism. Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn and Sean Bean as Boromir epitomize classically masculine action heroes, rugged and tough with dirty fingernails, but balanced out with the perfect amount of emotion, regret, and vulnerability. It would have been far too easy to ruin a great character like Boromir by having him be a constant, sinister threat in the background, building up to an inevitable betrayal. Instead, Sean Bean captures all the nuances of what drives Boromir, from his desperation to save his city from a fate he feels is all but inevitable, to the clear love that he has for Merry and Pippin. It's a remarkable bit of character building, and it leaves us with the most poignant and redemptive death scene in the entire series. John Rhys Davies as Gimli is great as the grumpy old Norseman type, while Orlando Bloom brings that something for the ladies masculinity that probably accounts for more of the film's box office and home video revenue than your average 5 out of 10 guy will ever care to admit. Although having said that, I will say that I enjoyed the much derided Tauriel Keeley romance subplot way more than I enjoyed Legolas's overexpanded role in the Hobbit trilogy. I am not at all bothered by a red-headed so she's hotter than usual Evangeline Lilly constantly throwing doomy eyes at a Colin Farrell knockoff. But Bolg was Beorn's kill, not Legolas's! The Hobbit actors Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Dominique Monaghan, and Billy Boyd all personify one of the greatest and truest forms of masculinity, the unlikely hero. All of them are shorter than average actors who signed on to play much shorter than average characters with bare feet, so they don't even get the defensive option of boot blades like that dude in Roadhouse.
Right boot. Got it.
None of them are physically imposing in any way, but their unadulterated belief in brotherhood, friendship, loyalty, and courage make them the ultimate heroes to whom even the great ranger from the north proclaims, "My friends."
You bow to no one.
A true hero can come from anywhere and anyone, and these movies showed that better than any other. You ever play that video game, Little Nightmares? Your character is named Six, and she is the smallest, weakest, hungriest little girl to ever set out on a heroic quest, and I absolutely love her for it. Or maybe it's because she's also a cloaked character with bare feet who largely relies on traveling without being seen for survival, and is always hungry but can also bring the darkness when she needs to.
Oh, little Nomi with the wiener!
The Monster Mash.
Eat it.
It was a graveyard
Oh my...
It caught all in a fire.
What? I was just hugging one earlier! Oh my gosh! I ate the gnome!
We've had one, yes. What about second breakfast?
Oh. I think I literally just realized that the game makers might owe some money to the Tolkien estate. Out of the rest of the cast, pretty much all of us got introduced to Miranda Otto and Carl Urban for the first time as Eowyn and Eomer. Christopher Lee as Saruman got one of cinema's all-time greatest comebacks after getting bogged down in British horror movies with Grand Moff Tarkin in the 1970s. Cate Blanchett as Lady Galadriel was arguably more perfect casting than Ian McKellen. And we all rejoiced to realize that Hugo Weaving could play a Tolkienian legend in Elrond Half-Elven just as epically as he played Agent Smith in that one movie from 1999 that never got a sequel. Shut up, just let me have that one.
I like to share a revelation that I've had.
But for me, the standouts are a toss-up between Andy Serkis's incomparable and technologically groundbreaking performance as Gollum, and Bernard Hill's scene stealer as King Theoden. I'm actually tipping towards giving the award to Bernard Hill, mostly because nobody has annoyed me with a constant barrage of bad Theoden impressions since 2002.
Stupid fat hobbit.
I'm guilty of it too, not gonna lie. Could any of these movies be made today?
You shall not pass!
Heroism.
Nobody goes off trail.
Nobody walks alone.
That's right. Nobody goes off trail.
Nobody walks alone.
Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo?
Mercy.
But Sauron lives because of you! And you will die because of me!
Peace, son of Gondor.
Brotherhood.
Who is this mortal who speaks to me as if he has the slightest idea who I am?
That's a huge bitch!
Sorry.
Friendship.
Conflicted.
Men.
Commander of the Northern Armies. I love you. Nope.
Fly, you fools!
Sacrifice. Redemption.
When Morgoth was defeated, I felt the light of the One again.
And that is why I will never be at your side.
You guys remember that story about that chick who had the suicidal boyfriend? Wanted to gas himself in the garage? Made the L.A. Fanning movie about it. He called her up and said, I don't want to go through with it, and she said, get back in the car, loser. That's Sauron and Galadriel now.
There are other forces at work in this world, Frodo, besides the will of evil. Bilbo was meant to find the ring, in which case you also were meant to have it. And that is an encouraging thought.
Good.
We must make 3.
3? Why 3?
One will always corrupt. 2 will divide.
But with 3 there is balance.
You're the devil.
Evil.
Must we go to war again? What the f?
Do you know how the orcs first came into being? They were elves once.
Corruption.
I am woman,
Lose your footing again, Galadriel.
Teamwork.
I want to talk to the manager.
Masculinity.
Ride with us.
Just to the encampment. It's tradition for the women of the court to farewell the men.
Femininity.
Anyone that does, I will promote to lieutenant.
That's because you have big jugs. I mean, your boobs are huge. I mean...
Beauty.
You wanna...
What are you doing with your life? Look at you, sitting in front of a computer with Cheetos crumbs all over your shirt. You're dirty.
Let him go, you filth.
Courage.
Don't tase me, bro! Don't tase me!
My dear Frodo, hobbits really are amazing creatures. You can learn all that there is to know about their ways in a month, and yet after 100 years, they can still surprise you.
Humility.
But you have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
They do not come to destroy Rohan's crops or villages. They come to destroy his people, down to the last child.
What would you have me do? Look at my men. Their courage hangs by a thread. If this is to be our end, then I would have them make such an end as to be worthy of remembrance.
Leadership.
The order is given. We march at first light.
Then you shall do so alone.
So, it is before the walls of Minas Tirith, the doom of our time will be decided.
Internalizing.
There is a tempest in me.
I think I'm downwind.
I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
Wisdom.
Then let us be rid of it. Once and for all. Come on, Mr. Frodo. I can't carry it for you. But I can carry you. Come on!
Loyalty.
Wait, no! We keep moving!
Where is the horse and the rider? Where is the horn that was blowing? They have passed like rain on the mountains.
Dignity.
Move your feet.
Mentorship.
There are many ways to kill an orc. But for you, I will keep it strong and simple. Stab, twist, gut.
Oh my gosh, she is so awful at this! As a quote-unquote medical professional, I can assure you that a penetrating abdominal wound, aka gut shot, is literally the second slowest way to kill somebody. Second only to siphoning out their entire bloodstream into exsanguination with a turkey baster! Who wrote this? Cut to the eyeball Windex.
You want a hot body? You want a Bugatti? You want a Maserati?
Death is just another path. One that we all must take. The grey rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it.
What? Gandalf. See what?
White shores. And beyond. A far green country. And a swift sunrise.
That isn't so bad.
No, it isn't.
Screenwriting.
Do you know why a ship floats and a stone cannot?
You're a fake and a fraud! This needs to stop. Now. This is not okay. This needs
The
to
ship
stop.
feels the darkness as well, striving lonely.
This is cancer.
Stop this.
Please.
But the ship has. Her gaze is not down the path.
It's time to
Fixed
stop.
on the light that guides her.
It's time to stop, okay?
Whispering.
Accurate depiction of taking 700 degrees Celsius worth of pyroclastic cloud right in the puss.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently. That's okay. Things are gonna be okay.
Conflicted.
There are many classic tropes of cinema which modern Hollywood has deemed fit to relegate to the boneyard, only to be replaced with something far less worthy of our respect or our box office admissions. Heroes have been replaced with anti-heroes, or far worse, marginalized and misunderstood villains. Humility has been replaced with overpowered arrogance. Romance has been replaced with self-serving, body-positive, Marxist, terrorist, activist, non-binary, black lesbian girl bosses who are single-handedly keeping the U-Haul business alive, whose bloated and desiccated corpses will be eaten by their cats when they die alone in their apartments. Sacrifice has been replaced with self-righteousness, brotherhood with Brokeback Mountains, vulnerability with unearned stoicism, adventure with self-discovery, overcoming fear with unraveling tradition, competence with identity, reverence with current-day politics, nobility with psychopathy, and perhaps most impactfully, sincerity with cynicism. We exist in a world where even good movies now feel like they're walking on eggshells and checking tick boxes at the same time, because even the greatest filmmakers have become fearful of commie film critics and are held hostage by the diversity quota requirements of major movie awards. Which is probably why there was a 20-year gap between actual Hollywood blockbusters winning the Academy Award for Best Picture, from Return of the King in 2003 to Oppenheimer in 2023. And it's why I haven't given a lump of moldy cram bread from Lake Town which movie wins Best Picture for more than 20 years. Sometimes we just have to take a moment to be thankful for J.R.R. Tolkien, who devoted decades of his life to creating a world of adventure and heroes. Most writers today cannot even fathom the amount of devotion and intellect Tolkien expended to bring us the complexity of Middle-earth so miraculously in just a handful of novels. And he did it without ever betraying for fame and fortune the principles that are most dear to him. Faith, loyalty, heroism, tradition, myth, national pride, and a touch of anti-industrialism. And when we're finished appreciating his work, we find ourselves in all the greater awe of how a largely unknown New Zealand director of low-budget splatter films could take an already world-famous tale and make it truly immortal for generations to come. Early career Peter Jackson, you're a legend on par with early career Lucas and Spielberg. No amount of modern adaptations that put the bomb into abomination can ever take that away from us. You took a fellowship of 9 heroes and turned it into a fellowship of hundreds of millions worldwide, perfect strangers abruptly united in cinemas by the renewed belief that adventure, salvation, and even a new age of heroes can still await us all, if we're just courageous enough to take that first step outside our door.
It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. This shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something. Even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going. Because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to, Sam?
For Frodo.
That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
Behind the world ahead, and there are many paths to tread, through shadow to the edge of night, until the stars are all alike. Mist and shadow, cloud and shade,